Hey everyone, it's Chandra Hartman. I'm an herbalist and the owner of Wild Root Coffee and Apothecary in Lynn Haven, Florida, as well as Longleaf Pine Exchange. Today I want to talk about something that affects a lot of people. It also affected me, and I want to just tell a little bit about my personal story and share some different things that I tried to make this better. So the thing that I'm talking about is GERD, or gastroesophageal reflux disease, or acid reflux. So one of the things that a lot of people believe is that it is caused by an overproduction of acid in the stomach. And I was told a long time ago from one of my herbalist teachers that in fact that's not necessarily true. That as you get older, so older people that have GERD and acid reflux actually produce less acid in your stomach. And you're probably wondering, like, well, how is this possible? Why am I having acid reflux if I have less acid? There's a great little video by Dr. Berg, and I'm going to link to that in the notes below, that kind of explains this a lot better than I'm going to be able to explain it. This decrease in acid is not the cause for the reflux. So what is causing it is a weakening of the LES, which is the lower esophageal sphincter. So that sits at the top of your stomach. And normally it's supposed to just stay closed all the time, except when you're eating or belching. Those are normal actions. So as you get older, this muscle becomes weaker. Not unlike a lot of our other muscles, we're losing muscle tone all over our body, and this causes the flap to stay, or the sphincter to stay open, and then acid can come up through the esophagus. So why is this such a problem for people is that it can actually lead to cancer of the esophagus. So obviously that's very serious, and it's something that needs to be monitored. One of the more common medications that doctors prescribe for this condition is what's called proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. There's a couple other different types of medication that you can take, but I think the PPIs are the most common. Basically what these do is inhibit the production of acid in the stomach, and that's how it stays under control. But these are not meant to be on for a lifetime. These are just supposed to be just a temporary solution, but pretty much everyone I know who's on a proton pump inhibitor has been on it for years. And this can lead to a lot of different problems. First of all, if you try to get off of them, what happens is the stomach tries to go back to homeostasis. And so it starts producing a lot of acid, and that's why people have a really hard time getting off of the proton pump inhibitors. And then some of the more severe long-term side effects that can happen are your body's just not able to absorb nutrients, and this can lead to things like kidney disease, bone fractures, dementia, pneumonia, and also an overgrowth of bacteria. So you can think about C. diff or SIBO. Once these things start happening to your gut microbiome, they're very, very difficult to correct. Obviously, these are conditions that we don't want to have, but you also don't want to have heartburn and GERD. So the primary goal would be to not have this condition in the first place. Unfortunately, eating a SAD or the standard American diet, a lot of times it leads to this condition. I should probably start with my disclaimer and tell you I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you this because I believe that this is what you should do. I think you should do your own research. You should consult with your doctor. And I just wanted to offer up some things that I did that were very helpful, and I hope that possibly they can help someone else in the future. For most of my adult life, I have been primarily vegetarian, plant-based. I've been eating a plant-based diet And for most of my life, my adult life, I have been a good vegetarian, if you will. And I haven't had a year or so in there where I was raw. I ate just raw foods, and I tried veganism. And I did this because I felt like it was the most ethical diet. I thought it was the best diet for the environment. I thought it was the best diet for humans. And of course, I love animals. So I had a lot of guilt associated with eating meat for a really long time. And when I say I was a good vegetarian, let me just say that I was growing my own sprouts. I always had gardens. So I was growing a lot of my own vegetables. If you came to my house, you would see little buckets and things percolating on the counter because I always had kimchi, sauerkraut, sprouts, kefir, kombucha. Always had different things on the counter. I was even making my own bread. I made my own sourdough. So, I made sure to eat combos of beans and rice to get complete proteins. I knew all the best ways to cook tofu to make it so it was really delicious. And I even made my own seitan. So when people say you weren't doing it right, I kind of get my back up a little bit because I think I was doing it pretty well. I've always been very interested in nutrition, and so I read a lot about these different things. Anyway, the point of all that is when I turned 45, I had some health problems that just never resolved on a vegetarian diet. Like, for instance, I had severe migraines. I was tired all the time. I always had brain fog. But when I hit 45, something happened. I was not feeling good at all. I was having back and joint pain. I had gained probably about 20 pounds, severe brain fog, and I just felt like I needed to do something different, and I developed GERD as well. I was never diagnosed with it, but it was just getting to the point where I felt like I had to sit up at night. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The acid's coming up through your esophagus when you lay down. It's terrible. In my research, I came across Lear Keith's book, The Vegetarian Myth. And I know that this is where this is going to get very controversial, but I like I said, I'm just trying to share my story and my perspective. So when I read her book, it just really resonated with me, and it made so much sense. And I realized, I was like, you know what? The only thing I hadn't really tried was eating meat. And the idea just seemed totally outrageous and crazy. And at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, like this is, what's the definition of insanity is you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Well, if you want different results, you need to do something different. And that was one thing I hadn't done. So I decided that I was going to do some more research on this. And then I discovered Mark Sisson's Primal Diet, and I read Dr. Ead's books and Gary Taub's book and a couple more, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. So I decided to adopt the Primal Diet because I felt like that would be inclusive of all kinds of foods, and I would get my meat, I would order my meat sustainably raised. And as soon as I started eating this way and I got rid of all the grains out of my diet, it was completely transformative. It changed my life. It completely changed my life. For the first time, I felt alive and awake, and I even felt smarter. Like, I didn't feel as slow. I'm a pretty introverted person, and I don't have a quick wit. So combine that with brain fog, I just always felt like I was several steps behind other people who were like really fast thinkers and processors. And just when I started eating meat and I stopped eating grains, it just changed my life. And the GERD instantly went away. I mean, within a couple of weeks, I was dropping weight. I lost like 20 pounds. I was energetic. My skin cleared up. So a lot of great things happened. And the big thing was the GERD improved. I mean, it completely just went away. I ate like that for a while, and I felt like that was great, you know, but I didn't feel like the need to go around and tell everybody about it, because when I was a vegetarian, I was pretty judgy of other people who ate meat. And now, having been on the other side, I realized that, you know, everybody is on their own journey, and you're going to just discover what works best for your body. There's no magic pills. There's no exact perfect diet for everyone. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. What I discovered after this was that I have one of the genetic mutations, the MTHFR genetic mutations. A lot of times when people have that, they can't absorb certain vitamins, and their body also can't detox. I mean, that's just a really simple way to describe this. So all these years I was not eating meat. I was just starving myself. I was so hungry, so malnourished. Even though I was supplementing, it wasn't enough. I'm now 53, and about a year ago, let's just say between the time I was 45 and 53, I started slipping on my diet. Now, I've always eaten really well, but, you know, I just started eating grains again here and there. I love pizza and beer. I can't help myself. And not that I just sit around and eat that all the time. I don't eat junk food. I'm not a big sugar person, so that's not an issue for me. But, you know, I would slip up every once in a while. And it really didn't bother me too much until about a year ago. I started having GERD again and acid reflux. And at first it wasn't too bad. It was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'll just take some, I make this little orange bitters that works great. It has a little dandelion and elecampane and some orange peel and a little licorice and ginger and black pepper. It's really nice. So I would just take some of that before or after a meal, and I was fine. Sometimes I would take bao he wan, bao he pian, which is a little traditional Chinese formula for like stomach upset. It's really great if you have bloating or if you've eaten too much or drank too much. And that usually works fantastic. But I got to the point where neither of these two things were working, and the GERD was happening once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. And a couple of months were going by, and I started to panic because I knew that this was becoming more serious. So one of the things I realized that if I ate corn chips, so like if we went out for Mexican food, no good. So I had steered away from flour tortillas and gone to corn tortillas. Bad idea. So I had to give those up, and I found that was really helpful. But then I was still having these symptoms. And like I said before, this can lead to cancer of the esophagus. So yeah, I'm starting to get really worried, and not to mention, I can't sleep at night. I have to sleep sitting up. Sometimes when I do fall asleep, I'm spontaneously like starting to vomit in my sleep. So I'm worried about aspirating. Yeah, it was very scary. So I went to my friend who was a doctor of Oriental medicine, and we just spent a lot of time just like talking about, okay, what's going on? You know, what does this feel like? And we were trying to figure out a pattern so we could figure out an herbal formula that was going to work for me. I have to say, before we even did that, she was like, you need to go get an endoscopy right now. And I was like, I know, but I don't want to because I know they're going to put me on PPIs. She's like, yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. And I'm like, I just work with me for a couple of months, and I promise if I don't have any improvement in say 3 to 4 months, I will go get an endoscopy and I'll do whatever I need to do to get this under control. So she agreed to work with me, but her response was the proper response. If you're having something like that, you really do need to go see your doctor and try whatever you can to get it under control as quickly as possible. So the first formula that we looked at was to help keep things down and to help resolve food stagnation. So the formula that she prescribed to me was Shi Dao Wan. I'm not very good with my pinyin, so please excuse me. So the common name for that is unripe bitter orange pill to guide out stagnation. And as soon as this formula has rhubarb in it, and it's basically what it's supposed to do is clear heat, and it dries dampness and keeps things down, moving downwards. That's what the rhubarb does. But I literally did not notice any difference with this formula. I take a lot of herbs, so I kind of have this instinct when I'm taking herbs. You can kind of tell when things are starting to work, even if it's not manifesting and resolving symptoms right away. There's like this feeling. You can just kind of tell when something's not quite right. I just want to add, if you're looking for like temporary stomach little things that can help, some herbs, you can look at things like orange peel, licorice, ginger, mint sometimes helps people. Apple cider vinegar and baking soda. These are not going to correct something like GERD, but they can help you a little bit. I always keep little ginger chews around, and I like to keep those in my purse because I do get motion sickness sometimes when I ride in the car, so they're good to have. But they can help settle your stomach a little bit, and they can help just calm down if you're starting to have acid reflux. The next formula that she prescribed for me was called GastroQuell, and Blue Poppy Originals makes this formula, but it's basically just a combination of 2 traditional Chinese formulas, Chai Hu Shigan San and He Urchin Tong Ji Jian. So Urchin Tong is an old formula, and that's just a modification of it. So these formulas, basically what they do is help dry dampness, they resolve phlegm, they regulate the qi, and they clear heat and toxins from the body. So obviously that sounds like that's gonna get rid of your GERD, right? And I did start to notice a difference with this. It didn't fix it right away, but I would say that I did have a noticed improvement. Now the thing with herbs is you have to keep taking them for a while, and this was not resolving it fast enough for me. One of the things that we talked about when we were trying to come up with a game plan to help me with the GERD was she mentioned maybe there's something in your martial arts practice that could help you. And there are exercises, definitely, if you practice Qigong or Tai Chi, there's definitely movements and breathing exercises and things that you can do to help strengthen the spleen and the stomach. But that really got me thinking about the mechanics of what was going on, because I remembered that somebody had told me it's not because of excess acid, it's because of this weakening of the lower esophageal sphincter. So I got online and I started researching if there was any way to strengthen this muscle. Now it's an involuntary muscle, so there's nothing that you can really do to strengthen it. But I found a couple of things that I thought were really interesting that were kind of exploring this idea. So one of them was sitting up straight. We've become so accustomed to hunching over our computers and our phones, and I'm guilty of this too, because my other job is I do sit at a computer quite a bit. So I started to be more mindful about sitting up straight, making sure I'm breathing and keeping everything aligned when I'm eating and breathing. And again, I found that this did help just a little bit. It's like, okay, there's really something to that. So I know from epigenetic orthodontics that all of this, everything is connected. You know, the things that happen, the things we eat, your mouth, your jaw, the alignment of your neck. So I found another article that talked about, and if I can find it again, I'm going to link to it in the notes. But it talked about how this person was thinking outside the box and wondering how they could strengthen the LES. So they had an idea of what if they had forced themselves to chew and swallow while they were upside down. It would force the LES open and closed. So they got down on their hands and knees and elevated the knees and put their head on the ground and took a few bites and did that for about 50 to 60 days. And they found that really helped. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I don't have anything to lose. So you're not eating a whole meal like this. And obviously you don't want to do this if you have a compromised airway. This is just something that I tried and I started doing it. So you chew and eat a few bites with your head on the ground, and then you can get up and finish the rest of your meal. Obviously, you're not going to do this in the middle of a restaurant. They're going to be wondering what you're doing. But if you're at home, you can do this in your own home. And again, after about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, that's helping a little bit. Like, so I'm practicing these different things. I'm practicing sitting up straight and my breathing exercises. I'm using my orange bitters. I have my GastroQuell. I'm starting to see that things are getting a little bit better. But I knew that I really needed to clean up my diet. So, because I had gotten away from eating a primal diet. So the next big thing that I did was I eliminated grains. And I already don't eat a lot of sugar, so that wasn't a problem. I don't drink a lot, but I went ahead and stopped drinking for the most part, maybe 1 drink a week. And those things really helped. So again, that really helped, but it didn't totally fix it. So the next big thing that I did was intermittent fasting. And not just intermittent fasting, I started eating earlier. So eating larger meals earlier in the day and then stopping eating. Like I tried to stop eating by 6 o'clock at the latest. And that really made a big difference. I forgot to mention that one of the things I started doing was taking digestive enzymes. I didn't notice any difference with those. I make my own kombucha. My cousin has a great little kombucha company called Noli South, and I drink her kombucha, and I didn't feel the need to even take these digestive enzymes or prebiotics or probiotics because none of those things didn't seem to work. But the kombucha, I do believe, is just good for helping the microbiome, your gut microbiome, rebuild itself. So I wouldn't drink a whole lot of it, but a little bit every day. Any kind of fermented foods that you can incorporate into your diet are going to be great for building the gut microbiome. I know that this type of eating is very controversial and I'm probably going to get blasted in the comments, but I really don't care. I just hope that I can help someone out there not have these issues. I realized about a couple of weeks ago, I was like, wow, I haven't gotten up at all. And I don't have to sleep in the other bedroom because I'm bothering my husband, and I don't have to sleep propped up on pillows anymore. I don't jump up in the middle of the night feeling like I'm going to throw up. I just don't have any of these problems anymore. It is amazing. And just a little aside, I was at the doctor. I just had a colonoscopy just for a screening, which everybody should get. And while I was in the waiting room, or where after you're in your little gown, you're waiting to go in, you're surrounded by the other patients, I could hear all of them talking about, or many of them were talking about their GERD and their acid reflux, and they were there not just for colonoscopy, but for an endoscopy. So I just feel so bad for these people that have things like that, because I know it was really driving me crazy. The eating early, and the other thing I want to mention about the eating, and when I'm with my family or I go out somewhere and they notice what I'm eating, they're like, oh, that's so weird, like you're having breakfast and you're eating eggs and a vegetable. I've been eating like eggs and a vegetable for years now. I sometimes will take a break and eat yogurt or oatmeal, or a smoothie, but it's only to take a break from just eating eggs every day. That's not normally what I eat. So I usually just eat a protein and a vegetable in the morning with lots of good fats, olive oil and butter, coconut oil, and the same thing for my big lunch dinner meal. I will eat a protein, a vegetable, and lots of fats. I will eat a little bit of fruit sometimes. Sometimes I'll eat a banana, or I know that's loaded with sugar, but sometimes I feel like that's what I want before I have one of my Kung Fu workouts. Otherwise, I'll just eat some berries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. I do like to eat sweet potatoes and some root vegetables, but for the most part, I just eat a small thing of greens. I grow my own sprouts, like I said, broccoli sprouts. So I just try to keep my meals really simple. And I know for a lot of people this sounds like I'm very restrictive, but I don't know, I just find that it tastes great and I feel great. So anyway, again, I just want to say that this is just my journey. I thought it was something really important to share, and I hope that it helps someone out there. If you're experiencing GERD or acid reflux, maybe there's something in here that could help you. And if nothing else, maybe you take it more seriously and go to the doctor and get on something that can help you so that you don't develop esophageal cancer, because we don't want that. Hey, we've come to the end, so I hope you all enjoyed and learned something. And if you like the video, please hit the subscribe button. All right, till next time. Bye.